I love that. I love her. Hey, everybody, this is Kenny and
Kenny squared.
with the sports on the Positive Tip podcast. We are just so happy to be here tonight. And Kenny, I think we're coming up on a year that we've been doing this, and we really haven't missed many weeks.
Yeah, we did it first at Myrtle Beach. So
It was
I don't know
last
exactly.
August.
It's got to be a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, I don't remember if it was beginning, middle of August, but it was definitely last August. And I can't go by the episodes. Like I said, I think we might have missed a couple of weeks here and there, but I would say we should have like a little celebration podcast. I don't know how we do that or what that looks like. Maybe in 2 weeks. That'll probably be safe to say in 2 weeks because it was probably middle of August that we went.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been great, and so we got to talk about it's a few days past now. Actually, yeah, about 3-4 days past the baseball trade deadline. So we'll get into that, the NBA, and then we can talk a little bit Olympics, particularly Simone Biles. So let me hear your take on the trading deadline. Who were the big winners? I know who you're going to say, but who were the big winners? Who are some teams that should have did more, that didn't do enough? And I know there was one big head scratcher for both of us that we could talk about. So let's hear from you. Who were the big winners here at the trading deadline?
First of all, I looked this up very quickly. Our first episode is August 13th. So,
oh wow. Okay.
So we're looking, probably 2 weeks should be good.
Okay. Awesome.
Anyhow, this trade deadline has to be the most insane one that I can remember.
Yeah, I agree.
Just to kind of give as somewhat of a context, this is the first time in baseball history that there are 10 All-Stars that have been traded in the middle of the same season. I'm going to give you all the names just straight up.
Yeah.
And you'll probably be like, oh, I kind of forgot that guy was traded. Nelson Cruz, he's with Tampa now. Adam Frazier, who's now with the Padres. Eduardo Escobar, who I forgot where he went. Joey Gallo. Yeah. Joey Gallo, don't have to go further there. Kyle Schwarber, Max Scherzer, Craig Kimbrell, Trey Turner, Kyle Gibson, and Chris Bryant.
Wow.
That's a lot of names.
And those were all All-Stars this year, right?
Yeah, those are all All-Stars this year.
Wow.
So a lot of weird trades. The Cubs basically are just blowing the whole thing up. I also saw first time ever that 3 guys that were teammates that got traded in the same season and all homered in their first game. Your new boy, not Chris Bryant, Javi Baez. You wish Chris Bryant, but Javi Baez, Chris Bryant, and then Rizzo all homered in their debut. A lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I think just in general, we'll look at a few winners. I think the Yankees are winners. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if what they were going to do or what that was going to look like, but now like their lineup actually looks balanced lefty righty, which I think is huge. I think Gallo I think Gallo in the outfield, left field has been kind of a black hole for the Yankees this year. Clint Frazier really hasn't worked out, and Duhar was good for about a week. Gallo can really kind of tie that down. Giancarlo Stanton is playing the outfield again tonight, so
wow.
I think that'll keep everyone a little bit fresher too. But I think Rizzo is going to be like that typical Brian Cashman move. He's already fit in really well. He got on base, I believe it was 9 times in his first 3 games. Is like one of few people to homer in his first 2 games with the Yankees. I think he's the 7th. It's kind of funny because G-Man Choi is the last guy to do it. He was with the Yankees for a hot second. Aaron Judge is another one that's done it, but I think that he brings a lot more than just the bat. him being a very good defensive first baseman is something I think the Yankees have missed a little bit. And then also just his clubhouse presence. I was just listening to the game and they were talking about how he's really like kind of acclimated very well, and he's been talking with his teammates, talking to them about hitting and things like that. So I think they're big winners. I think also probably the Dodgers too.
Okay, talk about
like
that. I mean,
yeah,
why did they trade Turner?
I don't know. Because like I get wanting to rebuild, but like unlike in say basketball or football, where you can kind of build around like one type of philosophy or one player, you can't really do that in baseball. I
Right.
understand trading Scherzer, guy was a free. There's a chance that you don't re-sign him. I don't
Right. I
get
get that.
signing or trading away Trey Turner, especially when he has plenty of years. But they also did get the Dodgers' top two prospects. And the Dodgers do have a pretty good farm system. So maybe there's something there, but it still doesn't really make sense to me. I think another one, it seems like this was more of a defensive trade type of move. I didn't fully understand the Red Sox getting Kyle Schwarber, but I
Yeah.
think it was because they didn't want the Yankees to get him. So I didn't fully get that one. But I don't know. It's been a crazy one.
It really has. Go back to Turner for 1 second. I think that if I'm a Nationals fan, I'm I'm like, what? I mean, the Nationals still they don't fill that ballpark, but they their attendance is good. They're not a team that's broke. They're in a major market, and we're gonna tear it all down because we're having a little bit of an off year. I don't. I think I was telling you this. I just don't get that mentality where and I know they weren't good last year either, but it was last year to me you just throw it out the window. But to now, I mean, they won the championship in 2019. So I don't, you like, I was also disappointed the Pirates traded Adam Frazier. And I guess, I mean, they kept Ryan Reynolds. I'm sure a lot of people wanted them to trade them too. But I just think if you're going to rebuild, you got to have a couple of good players left. And Turner, they is under control for at least one more year. They can afford to sign him to a good deal. It's not like, and the same with the Cubs. Now, see, the Cubs, I think. So I'll tell you this with the Cubs, and then I want to hear your losers because I have one team that I also my head is scratching. Um, the Cubs, I think back to the Braves of the '90s and in the thousands, and their GM's name is escaping me. And he was a pretty famous GM. I mean, he came from the Indians and he went to the Braves. I have it on the tip of my tongue, but anyway, one of the things that he said, because the Braves, if you were still a little bit young in the '90s, but if you followed their teams in the '90s, they didn't have a lot of the same players every year. They'd pick up a Fred McGriff, have him for a couple of years, David Justice, a couple of years, and Gary Sheffield. They would rotate guys in and out for a couple of years. And the GM, I'll never forget, he said this. He said, it's my job to make sure we don't get too old together and we don't get too rich together. And I thought that was a good philosophy. He always plugged in different holes, like every year with a few different players. Like you don't really, Brian McCann was probably with them for a long time, but there's not a lot of Braves from their dynasty years that was with them through the whole thing. Lonnie Smith, some of these other guys that they rotated in and out, right? Ron Gant. Those guys didn't stay more than 3 or 4 years with the Braves. So I think that the Cubs might have been guilty of, and none of those guys are old though. That's the other thing. They're all still pretty young. Rizzo, Bryant, as well as Javi. Kimbrel is a little bit old, but he can still pitch. And Javi, I was shocked when the Mets when you text me that the Mets got him. I didn't see that coming at all. I was sure that the Mets were probably going to get Chris Bryant, but I just think that the Cubs probably miscalculated everything. They should have signed a couple of these guys before they got to this last walk year. because they brought them all up together. They played really well together, and they haven't done a ton, right, since 2016, but they're still a competitive team, and Wrigley still sells out. See, that's the other thing. It's almost like the Knicks a little bit because Wrigley is going to sell out anyway. They when the Cubs were
Yeah.
bad years ago, and the Cubs haven't been bad for a long time now, but when the Cubs were bad several years ago, they would still pack Wrigley Field. Look how many years they went before they won. So I didn't get that. Part of me got why they did that, right? The Nationals, I just didn't get it at all. I'm like, they can afford some of these guys. Turner was the head scratcher for me. I could see some of these guys they just picked up, like Josh Harrison and John Lester. I totally got those. And Scherzer, I also get, okay, we feel like no shot in signing him. So we got to get something for him. I get that. Turner was the one that, you got to, if you go into rebuilding, I think, this is my opinion, got to still have at least one or two good players. Who do they have now? They have Soto, but that's it.
Well, and that's the thing, like, especially think about their lineup the rest of the year. Everyone's just going to pitch around Soto. He's never going to get anything good to hit. You
And
need
the
at least a
Mets
few guys.
play them a lot the rest of the year. I forgot. I think they have 13 or 14 more games with the Nationals this year.
Wow.
So, yeah, they've only played them a few times. Who were the big losers, do you think?
I don't know if I'd qualify him fully as a loser, but either way, I have no idea what the Indians are doing. They traded their second baseman, Cesar Hernandez, to the White Sox, which, like, to me, like, trading within division is always bizarre. But, like, the Indians aren't, like, that good of a team. But right now, they're only 6 back of the second wild card. Yeah, it's still a bit of a long shot. And you can make the argument that they've kind of overachieved at this point. But still, like, they made that move. They also traded Eddie Rosario, who's kind of been a decent player for them, for Pablo Sandoval to the Braves. Another one,
I didn't realize Pablo Sandoval was traded. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Yeah, that goes to show you how crazy the last few days have been. But, like, to me, none of that really makes sense. Also, I don't think the Astros did enough. Because you look, the White Sox, they getting Craig Kimbrell. I don't know how the White Sox got players from their in-division rival and their cross-town rival, but somehow they pulled it off. Tony La Russa, man. But I think, like, now you look at the White Sox, they have a very dangerous bullpen. They also have a great rotation. Both of those play really well in the playoffs. I don't know if the Astros did enough to kind of keep up with them. The A's added Starling Marte. The Red Sox, too, I don't know, like, Kyle Schwarber could be a good help, but they said that they're going to try him at first base, and he's never played first base. So I don't know if maybe they're looking more at, like, a DH for him. The Rays was interesting because I know at one point they were looking at Scherzer, too. I guess everyone probably was, but but they also added Nelson Cruz.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think, yeah. I think one of the other head scratchers is the Braves, because, like, Jock Peterson, trading for him kind of didn't make any sense. They're kind of in it, but not.
Got Adam Duvall back.
I guess
they should have never let him go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, you could probably make an argument that the Reds are kind of in-ish as well. Let's see here. They're 7 back of the Brewers, so they're a little bit far back, but I think they still play them a lot.
Yeah.
But they're only 4 out of San Diego, but it's going to be hard to...
San Diego is probably going to lose Tatis for the bulk of the rest of the year, which is going to really hurt them. I'm surprised there's one team you didn't name, because that was just the weirdest trade a few days before the deadline, and that was Seattle. And why did they trade their close? Who had like a 1.4 ERA, I think 11 or 12 saves. I think they just put him into the closer role, like, because I think only a few months ago, and the guy's been lights out. And didn't the GM say this is part of a bigger thing, and then nothing else happened?
Yeah.
I didn't get that. And they're right in the thick of it, right?
Yeah, let's see here. I've seen them recently. Seattle's 3.5 back from Oakland for the second wild card. The
Yeah.
Yankees are ahead of them, but they're right in the thick of it too.
Yeah, I didn't get that at all. And then for the GM to come out and say, yeah, and he's an ex-Met, Jerry Dipoto. So I have a little in my heart for him in a good way. But that one surprised me, man. I was like, what? Why would they trade their closer? And they sent him to the Astros, right? The division rival.
Yeah, I believe so.
I didn't get that. Do you think the Dodgers now are predestined to get back to the World Series? I mean, the Giants did pick up Chris Bryant, which I think was the underrated move. It seemed like that was the last trade, but I thought that was very underrated for them to pick up a bat like his. And I didn't realize how versatile he is. I think of him as a third baseman, but he plays first base. He's played a couple of spots in the outfield. That's a great pickup, and he's got something to prove too.
Yeah.
Do you think it's the Dodgers now division there, even though the Giants are still in first place?
Not yet. Because I have to look this one up, but they showed all of the hardware that the Dodgers have, like all the MVPs, because you got guys like, how can we forget that Albert Pujols is a Dodger still?
I know.
But
Mookie Betts,
Mookie Betts, David Price won a Cy Young back in the day. So they've got a lot of well-known stars, but also there's something about the Giants this year. And you were on this before everybody else.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't say it's like destined for them, because if they don't win the division, they could be one and done in the wild card game. But also you can also make the argument, who are they going to throw out there? Max Scherzer, that's fine. They'll have firepower and Clayton Kershaw for going for game one. So
yeah. It's amazing. They've got an all-star team, almost at every position. It's really amazing what they've done. To pick up Scherzer for this it's unbelievable. Imagine they signed him in the offseason too. He's such a great pitcher. So
yeah.
Yankees benefited right away, sweeping the Marlins. And so give us a little bit of a scouting report of how the Yankees are looking. It sounds like they're looking really good.
Yeah, I think they are looking a lot better. I think now I have been saying all along that the top 6 guys, somebody's got to go. And it seems like, because he's not up yet, and they seem like they're kind of slowly getting him there. Luke Voigt kind of seems like the odd guy out. But it seems like this team has kind of caught their second wind a little bit. I think having Stanton in the outfield really kind of helps open up a lot of different things. So you're not stuck with, say Judge needs a half day off, then he just gets the day off because there's nowhere else to play him. Or on a Garrett Cole start, you can have Sanchez still in the lineup as DH, but have Higashioka behind the plate. So I think that adds a lot of versatility. But I think just in general, it seems like having some of these guys kind of get that vote of confidence that Brian Cashman still believes in them, that he believes that this team can do stuff, is really, really big. Also, something that's been very, very overlooked with this team over the last month or so, since July 4th, only one Yankee starter, just one time, has given up more than 3 runs in their start. And ironically, it was Garrett Cole in the 14-0 shellacking back on Thursday. Other than that, actually, July 4th was the last time that happened, and that was also Garrett Cole against your beloved Mets. But their pitching has been really good. Actually, so good, in fact, that Jameson Taillon, Mr. Double Tommy John surgery guy, was just named AL Pitcher of the Month. Had a 1.60 ERA or something like that.
Yeah,
he's been really good. Obviously, Herman with his amazing start last week that in the end meant nothing, but he also followed it up with a really good start and then ended up on the injured list. But it seems like this team right now, ironically, it looks like their bullpen seems to be their weak spot. Chad Green has been kind of going in a little bit of a funk. Loizaga has been shaky. Loizaga is coming off of COVID, so that's not that surprising. But um, the Chapman looks good, but like the bridge to Chapman is kind of getting a little rickety. Zach Britton hasn't been that great since he's been back, but he also has pretty much missed most of the year. So
Yeah.
I wish the Yankees maybe have gotten a bullpen arm, but I think that'll be fine, especially when give like a couple guys days off here and there. It'll all be good.
Yeah, I was surprised. I might have mentioned this to you. I think I might have mentioned someone else. I was surprised the Yankees didn't get some pitching. I love their moves. I thought both those moves were big time, and those were more typical Yankee at the deadline, moves from several years ago. And I think I told you this, that Rizzo is a winning ball player. I've always liked him. I think he's a great fielding first baseman, and he does a lot of little things to win. He really does, and he's definitely a leader there. So good. The Yankees are riding the ship at the right time. I think that division is going to be just crazy when it comes to September. I think those three teams are going to really, really battle it out. I'll give you this on the Mets real quick. I don't know what's wrong with them. They're not hitting. Hopefully they right themselves a little bit here, but they're still getting very good pitching, and on days when they don't, forget it. They just haven't been hitting. And so we'll see what happens. There's a lot of baseball left for them. I think Baez is definitely a difference maker, but you're always afraid when the star comes to New York or to the Mets. Do they go into that deep slump at first? One of the few guys that didn't do it was Cespedes. He came in right away. First game, I remember he hit a home run, and I think he hit 17 home runs when they got him in 2015. That run, was just amazing. There was even talk that year of him possibly being MVP, and I think he got a couple of votes. But to ask Baez to do that, that's tough. We'll see. But Baez is definitely that type of player. So we'll see what happens. Baseball, it's going to be fun. I think that you got some teams that really stepped up, and I think this is going to be a fun couple of months now. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, by the way, the Mets cut into the lead now. It's 4-2.
4-2, yeah.
I didn't realize you guys have Brandon Drury. Brandon Drury, the legendary Yankee.
He's been doing great. He's a strange case, and maybe this is a topic for another podcast, because we talked about players that dropped off really quick. He's also one of them. He had a couple of really good years with the Diamondbacks, and then he came to the Yankees and he was terrible, and then he's floated around the minor leagues the last few years. He's been unbelievable, especially in the last 2 weeks. But even earlier this year, he had like 3 pinch hit home runs, and then he got sent back down again. And then they called him back up when somebody got hurt, and he's been on fire. Ever since he got the game-winning hit the other night. But it's strange that, and I thought maybe he's like hitting 40. He's like still like in his early 30s. He could still probably start for some teams, proving himself this year. So, but it's strange when that happens to a player, that they just go somewhere else and they just kind of fall off. And in his case, sometimes when you do come to New York, especially the Yankees, I think there's more pressure there. That can happen. But he's been great. All right. Let's switch gears real quick, because we are already at 24 minutes. We've been talking baseball for 24 minutes. Time flies.
Wow.
The NBA, really interesting free agent season. So there were some signings today. Tell us about what happened today, and what's your take on some of them, and talk a little bit about the Lakers' big trade last week.
Yeah, so I'll start locally with our guys. It looks like 3 out of the Knicks free agents have a destination. Nerlens Noel and Alec Burks both have re-signed.
That's good.
Noel, 3 years, $32 million. Burke, 3 years, $30 million. So I'm not huge contracts. I like those signings. Reggie Bullock is gone. He signed with Dallas.
Oh, really? I like Bullock.
So that's kind of, yeah. So that's one. actually just happened here. Dwight Howard is going back to the Lakers, which
Oh
I think that's
gosh.
kind of interesting.
Like the third
Um,
or fourth time he's been back to
but
the
I
Lakers.
think, yeah. I'll focus on the bigger ones though. So first of
Yeah.
all, Chris Paul, who opted out yesterday, is re-signing with Phoenix for a 4-year, $120 million deal. Huge deal for him. I don't think like that might be a little excessive. I'm like, okay, I'm fine. The Knicks didn't do that.
He's as smart off the court as he is on the court. Because think about this. He's 36 years old. And he just got a 4-year deal. And he knew that he opted out of, did you see what his salary would have been this year? He opted out of like a $43 million salary this year, taking a chance that the Suns were gonna. They
Wow.
probably had told him, we'll sign you long term. And it's great for him. I'm with you though. This is probably where you're going, right? He's probably gonna give you another great year or maybe two. But I mean, at 39 and 40 years old, I don't know, man. I don't know. But that's his last shot. So he took his last shot and he got it. This is his last shot at a multi-year
Yeah.
deal. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's
And
good for the
like,
Suns.
I think it, yeah, I think my biggest thing though is like, are you going to be able to keep that core because Chris Paul is taking so much money?
I
But
don't
I
know.
guess we'll see.
Yeah.
The other big free agent signing today, Kyle Lowry, after his loyalty for a while with the Toronto Raptors, is heading down south. He's going to be Miami. Um,
Wow.
so that to me is a big one. That kind of changes the East a little bit because now you
Yeah.
have him with Jimmy Butler. Both
Yeah.
guys have been in the finals. I think that's a good move. Um, Kind of a
He's a
head
winning ball
scratcher,
player.
and then I'll get to the Lakers thing.
Yeah. What's
Yeah,
the other
I
head
agree.
scratcher?
Like head scratcher for me, the Cavs have signed Jared Allen, who they got as part of the Giant James Harden deal. 5 years, $100 million extension. Um,
He signed for
I,
100
I don't
million.
know why.
Wow. They must have just had money to burn. They're like, sure, man. He's a good player though, but I don't know if he'd have gotten that anywhere else. You know?
No. Um,
Yeah.
and also
Yeah.
like he was a restricted free agent, so like they could have matched anything that was brought in, but
Yeah.
yeah, that to me was weird. But anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I don't know what these Cleveland teams are doing, but
Yeah.
obviously the big story of trade of draft night was Russell Westbrook going to the Lakers.
Yeah.
Um, First of all, it seemed it seemed inevitable that Kyle Kuzma was going to go. You you just kind of got that vibe. As far as the Lakers with Westbrook, AD, and LeBron, as far as talent goes, I think that works really well. But like Russell Westbrook really hasn't had like the best relationship with some of his players. I've heard from some people like watching interviews with Inez Cantor. I remember he was asked like, how's Westbrook as a teammate? He's like, oh, he's great. He's like really on fire and passionate. But like, is that going to work with LeBron? Because I feel like Westbrook is very like ball dominant. He loves to get those triple doubles and he's great at it. But like, so is LeBron. So I don't know how that's going to work. But I think kind of if they could figure out a good system, kind of just like the Nets, you have a lot of talent. If you just throw it out there, it should end up winning at least something.
Yeah. I like the trade actually. I think Kuzma had totally wore his welcome out there. I think Harrell is a really good player, but for a guy of Westbrook's caliber, you got to throw him in there. Caldwell Pope is a very good player too. So the Lakers will pick up role players to take their places. Russell Westbrook has just had an interesting career, and he's stuck there in Oklahoma City, and for the last now 3 years he's bounced around, and so I think that he'll temper his game a little bit to win a championship because that's missing from his resume. I mean, I was surprised that people were still killing him. He's only a few years removed from averaging a triple double for the season, which nobody had done. You know what I mean? Except Oscar Robertson when they really didn't keep the stats. And so he's still an amazing player. He doesn't have the speed that he had, a few years ago. But I think also him, I mean, he's a Los Angeles guy. Remember, he was at UCLA. He grew up in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that he's got to know this is his last shot. I mean, if you can't win a championship or make a deep, deep playoff run with this team, I mean, come on, West or not, you got LeBron James who, again, how many more years does LeBron have where he's playing at this high level? Who knows? I mean, he's a specimen. So, but I just get the feeling that LeBron, when he knows when it's time to walk away, he's just going to walk away because he's got a lot of other things that he can do, Space Jam, stuff like that. So I think it's a great trade. I think that I think the Lakers are going to be a dangerous team. I think they'll probably struggle for their first 10 games or so, but I think they're going to be a dangerous team. I think Westbrook will kind of find the fountain of youth a little bit, and I think you'll see similar to the way Chris Paul was with Phoenix. I think that's what you'll see Westbrook with the Lakers.
Nice. Yeah, I think I think it'll end up working. It'll probably work very uniquely, but also like LeBron has always made players around him better. Like Anthony Davis didn't even win a playoff game until he came to the Lakers. Yeah. Kyrie hasn't won anything before or after he was with LeBron. What has the Cavs done in the last 3 years aside from getting lottery picks? So I think he'll make it work. I do have a couple more for you.
Oh, go ahead.
To kind of hear your thoughts. Yeah. First, two other stars getting big extensions. Jimmy Butler, 4-year, $184 million extension with the Heat.
Yeah, he's worth it.
And our favorite player, our favorite player, Trae Young, 5 years, $170 million, and could make up to $201 million.
Begrudgingly, I'll say that he's worth it too. He's a special player. He definitely. I mean, listen, he killed us. He killed the Knicks. He killed us. But he deserves. He's a very special player. I think he's going to be good for a long time.
Yeah. I have two more. First of all, Lonzo Ball, part of a sign and trade, is heading to the Bulls.
Yeah, they did a few things today,
and
right?
Then also, so they trade Sanaski, I don't know who that is, Temple, a second-round pick to New Orleans for Lonzo, who now signs a 4-year, $85 million deal. So he's getting paid. That's pretty decent.
Yeah. That's a little overpaid for Lonzo, but yeah.
Yeah. That's another one. Like, I kind of wanted the Knicks to get a little bit more in on him, but I'm good with that.
Yeah. Who else did the Bulls get today?
And then the last one. Oh, sorry. Who else did they get?
Oh, was that it? And maybe that was all I said.
Oh, that's this one just came in. Evan Fournier is 4 years, $78 million with the Knicks.
Who is that?
That's interesting.
Yeah, who is that?
He was with the Celtics. He's one of the French guys that shellacked the U.S. a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
I'll see if I can pull up his numbers.
Your point guard?
But, he's a guard, yeah.
Okay.
I think he's more of a shooting guard, though.
Okay.
The other one, where do you think Leonard is? Do you think he's going to go anywhere? They say that he's not, but
no, I think he's going to wind up right back with the Clippers. I think he's doing like Chris Paul did, opting out, because he's also opting out of like $39 million a year. But I think, he put that team together, right? He brought Paul George here. Imagine if he bails on them, and I don't think special situation how the Nets waited for Kevin Durant because they had Kyrie Irving, I don't think there's too many teams that would do that, because he's probably not going to play next year. So I don't think there's too many teams that's going to sign him, knowing that, hey, they have to wait till 2022 and 23 season, for him to play. I don't know. That's just me. It might be a team that does that, but
Well, and also like coming off of an ACL tear, you're always a
yeah,
little leery. Like think about like the Warriors are like, oh, we're gonna be dangerous again, but like Klay Thompson hasn't played in almost like 2.5 years now.
yeah.
So
And Kawhi had leg issues for a long time before in San Antonio, right? And he's still Mr. Load Management.
yeah.
And I love Kawhi. I think he's a absolute winning ball player. But I wouldn't take a chance on him at this point. So I don't think he'll have much of a choice. I was surprised that he opted out, but I don't know. We'll see. All right, we'll shift real quick just for a couple of minutes. We said we were not watch the Olympics, but I didn't watch that much. I've seen some of it here and there, but obviously the big story. We've talked about mental health a lot, so I'll just ask you this: were you surprised at some of the backlash that Simone Biles got? Did any of that surprise you?
I think a little bit, but also maybe not so much because like I mean we saw the same type of backlash with Naomi Osaka, and like I feel like still athletes are absolutely allowed to withdraw if they have like a physical injury, but if it's a mental thing, it's still not considered fully like real. Like a lot of people saying that she's not mentally tough enough or anything like that to me is ridiculous. After reading some of the stuff that she's gone through, whether it's like being
Yeah,
abused,
yeah,
assaulted, like, and also from what I've heard, like if you're a little bit off in gymnastics, even if it's a little bit off mentally and you miss, like you could be paralyzed. Like some of the crazy
yeah,
stuff they do, you need to
yeah.
make sure that you're 100%. So I think she made the right move there.
I I do too. I didn't understand the backlash and hey, suck it up and it's for your country. And I mean, look how many gold medals she's already won. So what she's not for her country. I mean, she's the most decorated in history. And I didn't get the backlash, and I don't think any of us can put ourselves in her shoes and the pressure that she probably has been feeling to want to perform for our country. And she's also not a kid anymore. She's 24 years old. That's still very young, but that's old and competing in the Olympics. I mean, you'll see Michael Phelps out there this year, right? And so I just don't.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he spoke up because he obviously has had a lot of his own issues. But I just don't get it. And here's a young lady that's made a lot of money, in endorsements and stuff like that, and she's put all of it back in the community. She's built, all of these gymnasiums for young ladies to be gymnasts, like she is. It's just hard, and you think about again some of the stuff she's gone through as a kid, but then also, in her teens with this awful guy that molested the whole team. Um, I'm surprised that she was able to compete for as long as she did, knowing all the stuff she's gone through. And I just listen. All power to if your head is not in the game, man, you need to get that fixed. That's forever. The Olympics and everything else is temporary, man. God wants us to be in a good mental state and mental health. He gave us these bodies for a reason, and he wants us to take care of these temples that we have. And I really feel like that's what she's doing, but she is going to compete, it looks like this week, so we'll see what happens. Baez looks like he might have gotten
Yeah.
hurt. um,
Uh-oh.
yeah,
That
yeah,
that would be a total Mets thing to happen though.
that would be a total mistake. All right, we are just about at 40 minutes. But this has been fun. And hopefully, I think people will find it interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, we had some interesting talk here. So let me get the music back on and we will go ahead and wrap it up. So why don't you take us home, man?
All right, crazy few days of baseball trades. Here we are at the beginning of free agency. I hope you all enjoy it. Enjoy the rest of the Olympics. But for now, this is Kenny Squared End
Kenny,
with sports on the positive tip. We will see you guys next week.
awesome. Talk to you later.